Okay, let's get underway. We're on Chav Zayin Amud Aleph. We're halfway down the page. Tonight we'll see the Gemara and the Tosafot that I think you will agree is a really crucial one because it actually impacts not only our basic understanding maybe of how things work for Rosh Hashanah, but also our liturgy. Let's go. First of the wide lines in the Gemara on Chav Zayin Amud Aleph. V'taniyot Mishal Zchar and Kefufin, Pipin Sufa, Kasef. Yeah. That's what we're up to. Maishna hatam dezav, maishna hacha the kasef by the imako kinufaya the kasef hu dichtiv asel chashtei chatzutzot kasef v'bayit ema hatorah chas alamon shal Yisrael. So why is it that the shofar that we use on Rosh Hashanah should be covered in gold? That's what we had in the Mishnah. Shofar Rosh Hashanah shel el pasut piv mitzupa zahav. And then we had the on Vitaniot is made out of Zecharim, which means the ram, and they should be have the mouth covered in silver. Remember, we said mouth doesn't literally mean where the mouth goes, because then it could alter the sound. We talked about that, so that won't work. It's either the mouth where the sound comes out on the wide end, or maybe it's every point on the mouth, just means in the area of, but not actually what one would use in order to blow shofar, as the case may be. Neither of these should be confused with the chatzotzrot that were described in the Mishnah as being in the Mikdash on either side, flanking the person holding the shofar. The chatzotzrot are made entirely out of silver. These are made out of the ram's horn, but they're covered in silver. And there are two reasons why one might use kesef. One is because of those chatzotzrot in their function in the description in Parshat Ba'alotcha, aseh lecha shtei chatzotzrot kesef miksha ta'aseh otam v'hayu lecha lemikra ha'eda ulamasa et hamachanot. They are for the purpose of calling the assembly together and for the purpose of getting ready to travel as an assembly, as a people. So therefore, the idea that the silver is associated with that in the desert, in the midbar, it was really made out of silver entirely. For fast days, the point of the shofar is also to gather the people. The Mishnah is a bit at variance with our practice. The Mishnah described that on Rosh Hashanah should be shel Yael Pashut, an ibex, a straight a horn. And for fast days, Mishal Zecharim from the ram, and should be Mekufaf, that it's bent. As it happens, we actually end up doing what Rabbi Yehuda says at the end of this Mishnah, where Rabbi Yehuda points out, Rosh Hashanah talking b'shal Zecharim, Yovel b'shal Ye'elim. Right? He doesn't weigh in about the fast days, but at least on Rosh Hashanah, we do follow this. We do Zecharim, we use the aisle, and it's actually also Kamat Kayif Inish. The more that a person is subservient, bent over, as it were, towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and thereby they'll have more, whatever it is, more receptivity by HaKadosh Baruch Hu of their tefillot. That's what we saw already in the Gemara. I'm just pointing it out because here, one of the ideas about why it's silver is, it's to gather the people. And the silver trumpets, entirely made of silver, in the midbar, are also to gather the people. It's not really about its petitional or prayerful dimension as much as the calling together the people. The silver part of it is to gather the people. Second option, that is the possibility. The Gemara says the Torah is concerned about the financial assets of the Jewish people, and it'll be too expensive to expect everyone to put gold, which begs the question, so hatam nami navi de kesef. Yeah? So why don't you just make on Rosh Hashanah also out of silver? Accepting as a premise here that the price of gold is more valuable than the cost of the value of silver, and therefore in every place where they're going to have a shofar and a shofar for Rosh Hashanah and one for fast days, they'll be differentiated by the type of metal that's used. So why don't you just do kesef altogether if that's really the reason? Answers the Gemara. We saw this last time. Hachi afilu hachi kavod yom tov adif. We're still worried about the honor of the Yom Tov. We're worried that things that we're always caught in that balance. We're worried about the money of the Jewish people on one level. On the other level, it's the place of grandeur, the place grandeur not for us, but for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what are we skimping on that? We saw this. One second, we saw this in Masechet Yuma with examples where this was the case, where they were ensconcing various things in gold. We had the kalpi; it was originally a wooden box, and we had the making it into gold. We had who was it? I think it was Ilani Hamalka. Maybe was it Ilani Hamalka? I think it was Ilani Hamalka. It was someone. It was a queen who makes the tablet that the Sota uses. Gold also. It's like it's not even a positive thing. It should look nice. The Mikra Bikurim should be a tablet made, something beautiful. So beautification, and for the covet of Yom Tov, we have this idea. There's an economic consideration for each community, but at the same time, when it comes to the covet of Yom Tov, so then it should be the highest stature that we can get to. Yeah.
Did anybody ever see, and we call it in Hebrew piyah? It goes to that's what it is. Piyah.
You told me about this. That it's
the dog. I don't know.
I didn't.
Somebody that went to shul. It was.
I never saw. No. I mean,
or,
today we use we use the shofar.
I know, but not with the.
No, not allowed. Not allowed.
It's something.
Not allowed. Right. But here we're talking about the covering of it in a precious metal of some kind. But by the way, Rav Papa Bar Shmuel Savar L'Mavid Uvda Kematnitin. Rav Papa Bar Shmuel wanted to do exactly as we have in the Mishnah: a shofar, 2 chatzotzrot, nice, fancy. Amar Le Rava Lo Amar El B'Mikdash. You don't do it out of the Mikdash, only inside the Mikdash. Tananami Hachi, Medvar Mamurim, B'Mikdash. There's also have a Braita that says this. We only do it in the Mikdash this way. Alpha B'Gvulin, Makam Sheish Chatzotzrot in Shofar, Makam Sheish Shofar in Chatzotzrot. Right? So you have one or the other. And of course, we don't need Chatzotzrot in a shul. We need a shofar for a mitzvah purpose. So you have a shofar, you don't have Chatzotzrot, and that's it. That's why we don't have it. Further, Rabbi Chalaf B'Tzipori, Rabbi Chanana Ben Trajan B'Sichni. We have two different great Chachmei HaMasorah, and they were actually trying to do this in their places in the Galil. Ushaba Hadavar. So there should be a hay over there. Ushaba Hadavar, when it arrived. We only do this on the eastern gate and of the Mikdash and on the Har Bayit itself. That's it. We're not going to do it in other places. Amar Rava v'itema Rabbi Shua ben Levi. My kar'a dichti b'chatzotzot v'kol shofar lifnei Melech Hashem. Lifnei Melech Hashem hu deba'in chatzotzot v'kol shofar al ba'alma lo. What do we have? The pasuk. It's chatzotzot and kol shofar. That's if you're in the presence of the king. The presence, that's in the Bakum HaMikdash. Outside, not as much in the presence. So you're not going to have. You're not going to blow. And we say it on Friday night, right? So, right, that's correct. So we're familiar with it, and that's the idea that we're not going to use it in a shul or a community. It's only going to be in the Beit Mikdash. They have this issue with the shofar and the chatzotzrot. Okay, let's move forward. Shave hayovel Rosh Hashanah l'tkiyav the bracha. We saw that at the end of it was a third to last line of the Mishnah on the facing page, that the Yovel year is the exact same on Yom Kippur of Yovel. It's the same as the Rosh Hashanah of that year in terms of the shofar and in terms of musaf. So the long musaf, including Malchiot, Zichronot, and Shofrot, would be incorporated on the Yom Kippur of Yovel. Presumably, by the way, also, because it's Yom Kippur, the bracha, I don't imagine, could have ended Melech al Kol Aretz Mekadosh Yisrael V'Zikaron. Must have ended Melech al Kol Aretz. I don't know. Melech Mochel V'Solech, Lavonoten V'Lanot, Amal Beit Yisrael, V'Chulei V'Chulei, Ma'arish Moten V'Chol Shana V'Shana Melech Kol Aretz Mekadosh Yisrael. I don't know. V'Yom Kippurim, I imagine. I don't know. I had to have modified it. Yom Kippurim is still there. But so there was a modification. Just remind me that I said there had to be a modification shortly when in the next Gemara that we're going to learn. But what the Gemara is going to seize upon as the issue is one of the lines in the liturgy of Rosh Hashanah, particularly in Zichronot, that we're not sure how we could possibly say in good conscience if the brachot are identical, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which is a year of Yovel, how we could say one of the sentences in Zichronot, doesn't it become a contradiction in terms as we're saying it? That's the Gemara. So join me now. Amar Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, Kman Matzlinan Ha'idna, Zayom Tchilat Ma'asecha Zikaron Liyom Rishon. According to whom do we daven nowadays in our liturgy, in our machzorim, we make the declaration at the beginning of Zichronot, or close to the beginning of it. This is the day, the beginning of your actions, a remembrance of the first day. Who does that follow? So the Gemara says, Karabi Eliezer to Amr B'Tishrei, Nivra HaOlam. Clearly, it follows. Remember that old machloket we had on 10b and 11a? Rabbi Yeshua says it's Nisan. That's Nisan Nivra HaOlam. Eliezer says B'Tishrei Nivra HaOlam. Since we daven B'Tishrei Nivra HaOlam, clearly, since we daven, this is the day, the remembrance of the first day, it must be, it is the day the world was created. And therefore, we're using that liturgy. We follow Rabbi Eliezer. However, Mativ Rav Eina Shava Yovel Rosh Hashanah Kiev Librachot. Rav Eina notes the contradiction to the Mishnah that we just learned a few weeks ago, which we just rehashed just now. It's supposed to be equal. V'ha'ika zayam tchad ma'asecha zikaron liyom rishon. The Rosh Hashanah ita uveyovel later. We have it on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, but what about on Yom Kippur? Shouldn't really add up, right? Understand why? Yeah. It's 10 days into the year. So this is not the day Hashem created the world. So we're still going to be, in a problem. Yeah. So the Rosh Hashanah ita uva Yovel, because you're doing it on Yom Kippur as well. Later, it simply doesn't work. Doesn't add up. No. Says the Gemara, ki katane ashe'ara. When this was spoken, that they're the same, remember about everything else except for this. It's like most things are equivalent, but clearly this sentence was not going to, could not have been mentioned because it would be a contradiction in terms. You can't say it. Another version of this Gemara, Rav Shisha Braid Rav Idi Matni Hachi. He learned it as follows. I'm Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, just rehashing from the beginning of this Gemara. You understand the syntax? And we're still learning in this shir with a little bit of methodology. The same limud that you have 6 lines up, Amr Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, Kman Matzlinan Idna, is now played over again by somebody else, but they're telling it, they're recalling it in a bit of a different way, which will be a different way of understanding this Gemara. So Amr Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, Haditnan. It doesn't start here with the liturgy. It starts first with Haditnan Shava Hayovel L'Rosh Hashanah L'Tkiv L'Bracha Kman Dilo Kerabi Eliezer. Right? If you hold that there is a parity in the exact language used in the bracha of Zichronot on Rosh Hashanah, as there will be on Yom Kippurim of Yovel, so then clearly that's not, which shows that we don't follow Rabbi Eliezer. Dika Rabbi Eliezer came into Amr B'Tishrei Nivra Olam, since he holds in Tishrei was the world created. Ha'ika, don't we say on all the other years, Zayom Tchilat Ma'asecha Zikaron Liyom Rishon, the Rosh Hashanah ita, Uviyav Leita, and the Gemara answers Ki Katane Asha'ara. It's the same, almost the same, but it came at it from a different angle. The beginning, the first round was the liturgy. How could you say the liturgy is constant? I have the liturgy in both places. Apparently, you're saying the same words twice. So it must follow. If we use that liturgy, how do we daven nowadays? Let the liturgy set up by Anshe Knesset Agdola be proof that Rabbi Eliezer's Shita wins. The second rendering of Shmuel Bar Yitzchak is, no, they weren't concerned about the liturgy being the problem. The point is that if we have the same language that's going to be used in both, so clearly the words can't refer to the creation of the world, therefore it doesn't follow like Rabbi Eliezer. No, okay, kikatane, asha'ara, it's in everything else, because truly we do have the same language in both of the answer. In other words, comes to the same point. No, it really does go like Rabbi Eliezer, but the everything else is the same, but that sentence doesn't appear on Yom Kippur of Yovel. And now reference our conversation about 5 minutes ago. In the bracha of the Kiddush Hayom, clearly, they didn't say the exact same words. They didn't say Malchiot on Yom Kippurim and say Mekadesh Yisrael Yom Zikaron, because it's also Yom Kippur. They have to say Yom Kippur liturgy. So it wasn't identical. So it must be it meant the brachot of Zichronot and Shofarot were identical on Rosh Hashanah as it was on Yom Kippur of Yovel. And therefore, the contradiction with this one sentence, Zayam Tchilat Ma'asecha Zikaron Yom Rishon, this is the beginning of the creation. You can't say that 10 days into the year. And therefore, it must be, okay, that line they must have left out. Everything else, they said as a generality. Mark, please.
So on the non-Yovel.
We do say this on Rosh Hashanah.
No, if it's the same on the Yovel years, then it should be different on the non-Yovel years. So what is different on the non-Yovel years? That's what I'm trying. Meaning the Mishnah says that on the Yovel years and Rosh Hashanah, on the Yovel years.
Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that'll be the same.
Okay, by implication then, if it wasn't a Yovel year, then they're different.
They're always different. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur davening is different.
So
49 years.
my memory of Yom Kippur davening.
That's okay. It's a fully different liturgy. There's no on Rosh Hashanah. There's Malchiyot, Zichronot, and Shofarot. On Yom Kippur, there's just one bracha there for the Kedusha Hayom. That's it.
So then
On a regular year, there are two different liturgies.
So in the Yovel year, they would
have the same liturgy on Yom Kippur at Musaf as they did on Rosh Hashanah because it was a special year, but apparently it was exactly the same except for this one sentence they could not have said on a Yom Kippur because it wouldn't be true. You follow?
Yeah, I'm good.
Now this brings us to Tosafot, which is for the bulk of our time together. If we can get through this and wrap our heads around it, I'll be very, very happy. And then we'll get out of shul early, which everyone's always happy to do. I doubt it, but you never know. We're here to learn, so play around over here. Kman Matzlinan Hayom Tchilat Ma'asecha. You see it?
Yeah.
The Gemara took as a given that we must follow Rabbi Eliezer because that's what the liturgy says. But also point out that if you go back to our discussion in the first parak, way back when, the halacha didn't follow Rabbi Eliezer for Tekufot, followed Rabbi Yeshua. You want to know when the Birchat Hacham is going to be? I could tell you already. It's going to be sometime in Nisan. I was at one. Hopefully, Mitzvah Hashem, we'll all be talking to be at the next one. I'm saying, okay, we hope. Hashem should give us strength and health, and vigor, but it always goes according to Nisan. And the Tekufot, we count according to Nisan. And for all these things, we'll always go according. So what are you telling me? We follow Rabbi Eliezer in the liturgy. It's very nice, but that's not the halacha. Tema. Ha kaimelan Rabbi Yeshua. Kedamrin perakamal tkufa Rabbi Yeshua. So Rabbi Benu Tam. So there's a contradiction here. This Gemara here sounds like we say like Rabbi Eliezer. Yeah. That Gemara is like Rabbi Yeshua with halachic implications. Birchat Hacham is only one of them. But remember we had all the counts of the tkufa. We're trying to figure out the amount of time that's elapsed and actually counting to figure out different things having to do with the agricultural cycle. It all went according to Nisan. Remember the Mishnah at the beginning was like the Rosh Hashanah for Malachim. Okay, so and for Regalim. So Kedamrin Per Kamlat Kufa Rabbi Yeshuv Omer Benu Tam the Kamilan Kirav Eina the Parich Mishava Yovel, right? The Rabbeinu Tam says we're going to follow this actually according to. Let's follow it according to the way of Rav Eina the Parich. Mishava Yovel. He asked the question of Rav Eina. He said, how could you say the same thing on Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur of Yovel when it is contradictory? Because you can't create the world twice. It happens on day 1 of Tishrei, then it's not on day 10 of Tishrei. Zeh Hayom Tchilat Ma'asecha Zikaron Yom Rishon. This is the day. So Rav Eina Hachi Ka'amar. This is what Rav Eina was saying. Va'ika Zayom Tchilat Ma'asecha De'eti B'Rosh Hashanah V'Leiti B'Yovel. It's true on Rosh Hashanah. It's not true on Yovel. Say the Bali Tosafot. Elavadai hada amrinan lei lav mishum briyato sha'olam ela mishum tchilat ma'asedin. Sha'olam nidon bo litkayem o lav. V'zeh shayach nami b'yom kippurim de Yovel de hukash l'Rosh Hashanah. Kid Kman Perek Batra. Essentially, did you get it? The words Zayom Tchilat Ma'asecha doesn't mean creation. It means beginning of your action of judgment. And the judgment period is from Rosh Hashanah until Yom Kippurim. So therefore, Zikaron Yom Rishon, we'll have to answer what is Zikaron Rishon. So Yom Trua asked this question. What is Zikaron Yom Rishon? Give me 1 second. Let's finish the thought. Zikaron Yom Rishon, right? The remembrance of the first day. So that sounds like creation. Says Moshe ibn Hajiz in the Yom Trua. That's a great question. But if you look in the Psikta and you look in Tehillim Kuf Yotet, Lo'olam Hashem Dvarcha Nitzav, forever Hashem are your words established. It means Hashem judged Adam Harishon on that first day of his creation, and he judged him with Rachamim, and so may it be for us. Zikaron, the Yom Rishon. What was in the Yom Rishon of Adam Rishon's life? Eats from the Eitz Hadat, gets judged, but in the end he gets a reprieve. He doesn't actually get killed on that very day. He gets a lifespan, 1,000 years. So we are mentioning Zeh Hayom Tchilat Maasecha. This is the day, the beginning of your action, not of creation, Masa Breshit, but Masa Din. Zikaron, remembrance, Liyom Rishon, the first time you ever judged, which was you judged Adam Rishon, you gave him a reprieve. I thought it was a beautiful idea. And therefore, that equally applies to Yom Kippurim of Yovel. It's also Yom Adin, right? So now, when the Gemara says Ash'ara, right, it means Ash'ara, not as we just explained until now in this year. Ash'ara, the rest of the liturgy is the same, but not that one line. When it said it meant it generally. No, Ash'ara means on other years of Yom Kippurim, we don't use this nusach because it's not linked anymore to Rosh Hashanah. We don't say it, even though it's still Tchilat Ma'asecha, because it's still, this day is the beginning of your judgment, means the judging is happening, still that period of time, right? Rosh Hashanah literally means the head of the year. But Rosh Hashanah can also mean the head days of the year, the top of the year, right? It's the 10 days that are the top days of the year. They set the tone for the whole year. Just think of it, your judgment, Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. Beginning of judgment, Rosh Hashanah, and the judgment, Day of Atonement, is also the day of Chatim Hadin. So that whole period is called Rosh Hashanah. Yeah? So when it said Ash'ara, it just meant on the other years, it's also true that Hashem is judging us on Yom Kippur, because it's the end of Din, but we don't have to use that nusach, because we don't have the same nusach as we do over the Rosh Hashanah that we would do on Rosh Hashanah, on Yom Kippur of Yovel. We don't do in the rest of the other 49 years. Kind of along the lines of what Mark was alluding to before. I didn't want you to spill the beans, so I said, let's see it inside.
No, yeah.
Okay, Larry had a question also. Yeah, okay, Larry?
I understand this correctly, say, well, we're gonna say exactly the same nusach, except we're gonna give different meanings to it. For Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur of Yovel.
We're going to give it the exact same meaning. Zayom Tchilat Ma'asecha. This is the day at the beginning of your action. Of
The mass seem different.
the Maasim of judgment are happening over the course of Rosh Hashanah through to Yom Kippurim, inclusive of Yom Kippurim. So it's not wrong to say it. We don't say it in normal years, but when it's Yom Kippur of Yovel, we're going to take the exact liturgy we spoke on Rosh Hashanah. We're going to pick it up and we're going to plant it also onto Yom Kippur. We're going to impose it on Yom Kippur of Yovel. When we say it there, what we mean that when we say it, any year, is it's not referring to creation at all, because creation, according to Rabbeinu Tam, surely happened in Nisan. What's happening in Tishrei is judgment. And therefore, we're recalling, since we're being judged, we're asking Hashem, this is the day of the beginning of your judgment, not in history, but of this year. Zayom Tchilat Ma'asecha, your Ma'aseh Din. Zikaron, it should be remembrance of the Yom Rishon, the first time you ever judged. By the way, according to this logic, I mean, what we're up to now with Rabbeinu Tam, that day happened to be in Nisan. But it's a remembrance. We're being judged. Can you remember the first day you ever judged humanity? Ribbon Shalom, you judged Adam Rishon with Rachmim? That's what we would like. In other words, according to this reading of Rabbeinu Tam, in this iteration, Rav Eina, he goes on to say it, Rav Eina did not relent. He did not withdraw from his original question. His question was simply answered by saying, your point is well taken. The words don't mean that they're about creation. They mean about judgment, and therefore you're right. Ash'ara, in the other years, you will not say this language on Yom Kippurim, even though technically it's equally as true on Yom Kippurim every year as it is in the Yom Kippur of Yovel. You look puzzled.
Yes.
That's okay.
What I'm hearing from the answer is you're saying, okay, you're in Ma'asecha, we're changing what Ma'asinar,
Mm-hmm.
but you're saying, so is judgment rather than creation.
Yes.
But you're having judgment on two different days.
Which are?
Yom Kippur.
But the truth is, it's not those 2 days, it's the whole 10-day period. That's what's happening in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. That's right. There are, so one is the beginning of the judgment, one is the end of they're all part of the judgment time. Listen, you could reject Rabbeinu Tam, but he's trying to reconcile. How did the Gemara open? The opening argument in the Gemara is, well, who do we daven like today since we say this sentence? Well, we must be davening Rabbi Eliezer, B'Tishra Nivra Ha'olam. Nobody said boo. Nobody said, but you just figured out on page 12 that Rabbi Yeshua follows the halacha. So he says no, because what is the Gemara really arguing about over here? When you have the Gemara, so this is the reading of Rabbeinu Tam. Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak says, like who do we daven today? Zayam Tchilat Masech Zikaron Lemishon. Kman, like who? Rabbi Eliezer. The Omar B'Tishra Nivra Olam. But Mativ Rav Eina says, no, that's wrong. The world was not created in Tishrei. It was created in Nisan. Shava Yovel Rosh Hashanah Litkiya V'li Brachot. Right? They're the same. And that means we must be saying the same liturgy. We can't talk about creation on the 10th day because it's already 10 days in. And you can't say this is the beginning. Zeh Hayom Tchilat Ma'asecha. Va'ika Zeh Hayom Tchilat Ma'asecha. Zikaron Lemishon. Rosh Hashanah Ita Uvi Yovel Leita. Says, yeah, Kikatane, when did it say this? It said it Ashara, not meaning on the rest of the liturgy, but on the rest of the years, which is not the year of Yovel.
Right, that's what I was about to say. It makes the other 49 years very difficult.
It's just to say that we don't, it's an argument from silence, though. The other 49 years, you're not saying it. It's no less true, but it just happens to be a different liturgy. Now, you could quibble and say, oh, come on. If it's so important, then you should have it in the Rosh Yom Kippur liturgy as well. And it's not there. Point well taken.
But, right, so just to comment on that for 1 second.
Yep.
If you just took Rosh Hashanah in isolation, forget about Yom Kippur for a moment.
Okay.
You would say, wait a minute, you're telling me Zeh Hayom. Wait, it's not Zeh Hayom.
So
Rosh
that's
Hashanah. It's not right. That's Nisan. So what are we talking about? Just Rosh Hashanah on its own. If we go back to Yud Beit, that didn't come up there as a
True.
discussion point there.
True.
So it only came up in conjunction when you're mucking around with the Yovel Yom Kippur
Mhm.
stuff. So now I come back to kind of what I'm back on the 49 other years, which is that question still holds true.
Lingers.
It still lingers and it doesn't get dealt with on the other 49 years. Why do we say that? You would have the same reconciliation is fine. We're talking about Matzlinan, we're talking about Tom Yom Adin. It's not
Yeah.
in the year, but you would still have that same argument.
Like, why don't you have it in Yom Kippur liturgy? But it's
Forget
not.
about Yom Kippur for a moment.
Oh, just in Rosh Hashanah?
Right, on Yud Beit, we talked about.
So you can still say, Zayom, on Rosh Hashanah we do say, Zayom Tchilat Masech Zikaron Yom Rishon. This is the beginning of your action of judgment. Remember, it's the first time you ever judged humanity.
But if you're gonna criticize that line as
Okay.
being indicative of the start of the year, and say, well, no.
Start of creation or start of a year? Start of a year.
Start of creation.
Start of creation, okay.
Start of creation. And we come back and the retort on that is, no, we know that, or we have an opinion from the debate that we started the year on Nisan, the start of creation on Nisan, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's what you're sure.
Right?
Yep.
So then you would say, forget about the Yovel, let's just assume this Mishnah was talking only about the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah. I would ask two questions. First of all, why did they bring up the Musaf of Yom Kippur, of Rosh Hashanah on Yud Beit as an issue? Because they would have the same, you'd have the same kasha there.
Good,
Right?
good.
And you have the same resolution there. Right? You meaning if this toast was.
Yeah, that really say, well, Rabbi Shua holds it means judgment.
You would say, right. it means
Yeah.
like a judgment.
The holds it means creation. Yeah.
Right. And why is that not there? And it only gets brought up in conjunction with this concept of taking this Rosh Hashanah Musaf, that line, and putting it into the Musaf of Yom Kippur on
And Yova. Okay. I think I now understand your question. It has to do with the. Okay, if I can hold this question in my head, then great. Yeah, okay, sure, add.
This jump.
Just say, I don't remember.
Language is Yom Ma'asecha. It's not Kufat Ma'aseh. And that I think reinforces what Mark is asking.
So you feel Rabbeinu Tam's answer is forced. Okay. Larry thinks, if I'm putting words in your mouth, tell me, it feels forced. Hayom Tchilat
With
Ma'asecha.
all due respect to Rabbeinu Tam.
Yeah, but Yom Kippur is not the Yom anymore, it's Yamim.
I'm having a hard time.
Okay.
understanding what appears to be a our stance.
Okay, a much more guarded way of saying it. I wanted to answer what Mark brought up, which is this has to do with the organization of a Masechta, even though I'm sure many people right now will feel that makes no sense because we see it all the time. But there are themes and topics, and those themes and topics are in some way guided, at least by the structure of the Mishnayot. The Gemaras, that's the threads on the back of the lattice, whatever it's called, the needle point on the back. The threads are all attached everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But the part that's definitely holding it together is the Mishnayot are in a certain sequence. The part that we were up to when we were at the discussion about Kufot was dealing just with the question of when is Rosh Hashanah. It hadn't gotten to the concept of the observance of the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, but to the question of Arba Rosh Hashanah, and it was actually talking still, if my memory serves, it was still at the very beginning talking about the Nisan part, which is how we got in the whole thing about the Tkufas and the back and the forth. So it wasn't yet in the world of Chazal. They knew it was coming because there was going to be Mishnah actually with the holiday of Rosh Hashanah. For us, what I did to try to show that break, if I could call it that, is when we finished the last Mishnah, which was not really the end of a parak. It was like Chavav Mid Aleph. The last thing about Kiddush HaChodesh, so we did that whole big essay from Rav Soloveitchik about Kiddush HaChodesh and Eretz Yisrael and the whole thing. That was just a signal. Okay, now we're done with that, and now the rest of the Masechta is focused on Rosh Hashanah, the Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah. So what's the shofar? What's the liturgy? So now those themes are going to bubble up, and now we're going to back reference things that happened before. Like that's the organization. So it's now a contradiction because now we have a Mishnah that says the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur of Yovel's liturgy is identical. Wait, how could that be? How could you say this is the day of the creation, right? Oh, well, Rabbeinu Tam says that's not what Rav Eina meant to say. The Gemara, by the way, did mean to say that, and it rejected it because of Rav Eina. But the way we originally read the Gemara was Rav Eina had a good kasha, so the Gemara said, Taka, you're right. So when it said it's identical, it didn't mean literally completely identical, right? You have I don't know what, whatever it is. You say these two boys are identical twins, right? But then you meet them and one of them is wearing glasses, the other one's not wearing glasses. So you say to the person who told you, you lied? That one's wearing glasses. No, but if it takes off the glasses, you see that they look the same. There's a little difference. So Ashar, the rest is the same. One line's different. Rabbeinu Tam says, no, that's not what it means. It means that Rav Eina's question was so well taken that the Gemara has reread. Has rejected the idea that the creation happened in Tishrei, thereby alleviating the contradiction that we would otherwise have to grapple with. And to Mark's point, at least the other way, why didn't it bring up Yeshua over here?
Right.
And say, well, Yeshua holds Nisan, and it didn't say that. It said, well, the liturgy, right? By the way, the liturgy in the Gemara is authoritative. If that's what it says in the Mafsir that Anshe Knesset wrote, that's what it is. Yeah, we paskin that way. How come? Because that's what the Jews all say. So we paskin that way because that's what Klal Yisrael does. Yeah, I mean, at least in this case, that's the minhag. It overtakes everything else, right? I'm not saying it tongue in cheek though. I mean, like the fact that it happens that way is very significant. However, Rabbeinu Tam says, no, it's that Rav Eina's question was so good. The Gemara upended, it just said Ashara means, yeah, on the other years, you're right. We're not going to say the sentence, but we could say it in Yom Kippur. And that leaves us with Larry's question, which is, if it's really all about judgment, if that's really, if Rabbeinu Tam's right, then why did it say Yom? It should be the Yamim, But it didn't say that. Let's keep going in Tosafot to see the next piece. Please.
What's the reason, this is very basic, what's the reason the Yom Kippur Yovel is the same as Rosh Hashanah?
It is the herald of the Jubilee, the freeing of the slaves, and it's a time, therefore, of renewal. That's the simplest answer I can give you. There's much more to it, but that's the very basic gist of it. It's the given and the problem. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur of Yovel is like another Rosh Hashanah. Why? Because it has to do with the Jubilee cycles and the resetting of things. The land going back, the slaves being freed.
That's very helpful.
Yeah, yeah.
Very, very.
Okay. Okay. So look with me.
That gives a reason why the two should be the same.
Yes. Yes.
Okay?
Yes. It is the renewal of the Jubilee cycle
And for that reason, I could.
at the time of the Jubilee, heralding the Jubilee.
Reconcile it to myself.
Yeah.
By saying, yes, there are different periods, but because this is another Rosh Hashanah, because. No,
Yeah. That's it. For those people, that's what it is.
But the Rosh Hashanah of Yovel is not on Yom Kippur.
It is. I mean, it's not called Rosh Hashanah, but it's the moment of the Jubilee, when the Jubilee begins.
It's on Yom Kippur.
Yes. Ukratim Dror Ba'aretz. Yeah, yeah, that's when it happens.
Okay,
It's 1 year.
so that
minus
makes it
10.
much easier.
Yeah.
Much easier.
10
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
10 days.
If you want to hear something mind-bending, since we're on the subject, I'll just tell you, apparently, a circle is 360 degrees.
Mhm.
And the reason why a circle is 360 degrees has to do with the 12 months, and 12 months having 30 days apiece. It's not really, but sort of, and it had to do with constellations. We learned all about that.
Yeah,
But the lunar year is 355 days approximately. It's about 5 days left over between 360 and 5. Yeah, between the constellations and 5. So the 5 days, apparently in ancient Egypt, according to YHK or Yerushalayim, there was a Yom Noraim in Egypt for 5 days to reconcile. But we, who have a lunar calendar and a solar calendar, have a difference of from 355 and change to 365 and change. There's 10 days left over that are not part of this year and not part of that year. And they have 10 days called the Aseret Yemei Tshuva, which are 10 days of judgment, which are the Yemei Hadin, which are the Rosh Hashanah. They're, so to speak, in between. Yeah. It's a mind-bending idea. And speaking of mind-bending ideas, we got to finish this Tosafot because this will leave you something to chew on. And I have 5 minutes left. What?
Culminate on Yom Kippur. 10 days leading up.
Yeah. But there's a variance, and the variance keeps changing over time.
Right.
It requires a leap year. It's a very it's between Rav Cherki and Rav Yovel bin Nun. Has a whole shear on this, which I cannot get into now. It's not exact, but I just gave you like a little pathway.
For another-
More to say for another time. But I got to finish Tosafot.
Except the real difference is 11 days, not 10 days.
You're drawing me into it, Art. I love you. You're drawing me. You're just pulling me in. I know full well it's 11 days. And I can give you the whole shear. It's a long, drawn-out thing involving. It's 10 days and change. It's 11. It's a whole. It's a beautiful shear, but it's not for now. So Rav Yovel bin Nun and Rav Uri Cherki, two different people, two different ideas, but overlapping. I talked about it, by the way, this past Rosh Hashanah. I gave a shear, but it wasn't recorded. It's Yontif. What can you do? So you have to. I'll come around in a cycle again in about 11 years or so. I don't know.
Yes.
Umiul idach kasha lishna kasha. The kamar matnitin dlok Rabbi Eliezer havale lishnuye l'zeh tchilin masech lava briyada olam kai. Right. So the truth is, the other rendering, the other lishna, not like Rav Eina, right? So really, there is a problem that the Mishnah is not like Rabbi Eliezer. And it should have, they should have said, it should have said, it's not for Briyata Olam, but it's about Din, but it never said that. Rav Eina wants to argue that maybe, but it's not, doesn't say that actually in the pshat of the Gemara. So look at this. Umashi Yasad Rabbi Lazar HaKalir. Nobody knows who the Kalir is, but he was one of the greatest poets of the Jewish people. Might have even been a Tana, might have been. Begeshem Dishmini Atzeret Kirabi Eliezer. To Amar B'Tishrei Nivra Ha'olam. So the special tefillah for that Rabbi Lazar Kalir wrote for Tefillat HaGeshem refers to the creation of the world in Tishrei. We shall Pesach Yasad Rabbi Yeshua, but on Pesach he said it goes to Rabbi Yeshua. So Omer Rabbeinu Tam, same Rabbeinu Tam, who we had questions about before, and he gets a second crack at it. You'll either love this or it'll leave your mind spinning, but I hope you'll love it. These are both correct. The world is created in Nisan, and the world is created in Tishrei. Or better, the world is created in Tishrei, and the world is created in Nisan. V'ikal meimar the b'Tishrei all of b'machshava libarot v'lo nivra ad Nisan. Tishrei is when a Kadosh Baruch Hu thought. He Allah b'machshava. He had the machshava the plan, I'm going to create the world. But when did he actually create the world? He actually created the world in Nisan. Udikavata ashkechan perak osim pasin. Gabe adam she'alu machshava librot shnayim ulvasof lonivra ela echad. We have this with regard to the Gemara in Eruvin describing how when Hashem was going to create Adam Rishon, Hashem originally thought to create Adam Rishon as two separate individuals, male and female. But in the end, he created one. Olav Machshava. Bereshit bara Elokim et Hashemayim et haaretz. In the beginning, Hashem wanted to Olav Machshava to create the world in Din. But what did he do? He made a shituf with Rachamim because he realized the world can't subsist only on Din. It needs Rachamim as well. Yehi or, that's Tishrei. Vayehi or, that's Nisan. Now you'll say, oh, come on. There are essays and essays and pages and pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of learning on this Tosafot. The Kohen from Lublin has a field day, as they say, on this Inyan. By the way, where do you think? Barosh.
Yeah. Your head, your mind.
Birosh Hashana. Hmm? Birosh Hashana. And the din is happening of what's going to play out, but it's starting in a world of machshava. Now, I'm perfectly comfortable in shul, given many, many drushes. We talk about Ze'am Tchel Masara Zikroni Yom Rishon. There's a day Adam Rishon was created. It's the day Adam Rishon, Chavim Tuchad, is created, and they're judged, etc. But on another deeper level, what I mean by that is based on this Tosafot. Olav Machshava. And that explains also why we have so many things that happen in Rosh Hashanah that have to do with my mental state, if you will. My kiyum, that you could have a tiyat shofar, which is a sound, but it's lifnai v'lifnim somehow, even though it's outside. There's so many elements here, and the din is going, and the beginning of din is Bereshit bar Elokim, Shem Elokim, Allah Elokim b'trua, Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei b'kol shofar. Allah b'machshava to go with din, but in the end, we're hoping it's going to move to Rachman. Way too drushy for Art. He doesn't like it. It's right here in Tosafot. He's trying to reconcile. How did the Kalir paskin like both? For the Shmini Atzeret, it's this way. For Pesach, it's that way. The answer is because they're both correct. It's a question of sequence, a question of mind, and then the bringing of it into reality. Okay, that's all I have time for tonight.